I cannot think of a better example of what to do when identifying obstacles and to improve solutions, to implement solutions. I always think of the Australian Seafarer. Oh, a particularly lovely piece of work, heavily unionized, protected by cabotage. It's a national fleet. They're not really influenced by international rules and regulations. And the entire vessel is Australian. Crew is Australian. Engineers, deck officers, all Australian. So I was wang dangled into the office in Shell Center one time, and general manager came in and said, "Dave, I'd like you to go down and fix Australia." I go, "Really? That's the task you have for me today, is it?" And he was referring to our Australian fleet. Their total recordable case at the time when he asked me to come in was 6, and our international fleet was about zero point 0.9, depending on 1.1, give or take. And up in a few months, the Australian fleet was going to be amalgamated statistically wise and measured internationally through all the fleets. So their 6 was going to amalgamate with our 1 and blow it out of the water, and which would have probably increased our total recordable case worldwide about 2.3, I do believe, at the time, which would have affected our hireability worldwide, as you can imagine. All right, with total recordable case frequency of that magnitude. So he asked me to go down and fix Australia. And so to give you a little idea of implementing solutions for obstacles, these guys, like I said, heavily unionized, protected by cabotage, very, very little influence from the outside world, all Australian, oi, 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 that kind of mentality. They had tried sending down fleet trainers prior to this, and one of them, a good friend of mine, Jim, sent down Jim, and he was getting him to go on board, and a couple of seafarers pulled him aside, brought him into a shed, and put a gun in his mouth and said, "You're not welcome here. Leave." Jim's like, "Okay, I can take a hint," and decided to leave. All right. They tried other fleet trainers after that. Funnily enough, the gun was enough of a deterrent. They kept sending people down there, and they got threatened with life-threatening disabilities and the like. And anyway, no international trainers, no trainers at all, were put on those vessels, and they were left alone. So that's one obstacle right there. Gun violence. No, I'm kidding. That's not one of the obstacles. But the obstacle is they didn't want to change. All right. And they had the ability to what? They had a lot of control. Where they were so unionized, there's another little thing too, they perceived everyone as equal. There was no hierarchy. Officers didn't tell crew what to do because we're all Australian, we're all equal. And the contracts for these guys were brutal. They involved everything to the flavor of ice cream that they have on board. If you ran out of chocolate, that's it. Ship came to a standstill. Get chocolate out here now, right? To the side, the comfiness of their chairs, recliners, TVs, pool tables, you name it. These boys had it all. Okay, and these unions were heavily reinforced. And anytime management suggested to an improvement on safety, they thought that it was an infringement on their rights and stuff like that. So that's the mentality of the obstacles we had to overcome. So the general manager said, "What do you need to overcome that kind of stuff?" And so I had a little bit of an idea. I didn't know how bad it was. I had a chat with Jim, years later with the gun in the mouth story. And I was like, well, I'd prefer not to do that. So I identified the problem is if you have a mob mentality, and that's what it is. You have a ship full of 30 guys who are close-knit, tight, have the ability to put a gun in some guy's mouth to stop stuff from happening, then that's a problem. So the first thing is there's no diversity there. They're all the same guys. So what you want to do is you want to break them up. All right. So my first thing is I can't train on board ship. That's one hurdle you just can't do. It'll be me against them. I'm not even going to get up the gangway, let alone hearts and minds, So I had to bring them off. So I was teaching as well, courses around the world, and this general manager said, "What's my time frame for this?" And he goes, "Well, I wanted it done yesterday," as all projects are. You know what it's like. So I said, "All right, this was April," and he goes, "Well, what about by the end of the year?" And we just did the numbers. It was about 300 of these guys. I could run 13 courses, 20 guys a course. I wasn't going to get it all done by Christmas. Just sheer numbers, the mathematics should work out. So from a strategic planning point of view, we had to do that and book courses in for the next year, get these guys on. I had to fly down to Perth and talk to the management team, because if I'm selling an idea like this to a close-knit mob mentality of these barriers that I had to overcome, when I went down and fly with the managers, it's like, so then they started listing off the problems that they've encountered in the past, just negotiating with the unions and all these things. So we came up with solutions of how we're going to do this. The first one was getting the unions on side. So I went and had a chat with the unions, talked to these guys about what we're trying to do and stuff like that. Because really, if they would have amalgamated with us, and that would have affected the world fleet, our international fleet, then the Australian fleet really would have started to cease to exist very, very quickly, because now the unions understood that they were losing that cabotage, that protectionism, and seafarer unions were going to die a quick death. So they wanted to hold on. So we just explained to them we wanted to bring the safety statistics down to a reasonable level, and I was that guy, right? And I convinced them. I don't know how I did it, but I did. And they said, okay, fair enough. So then we had to pick up plans for just a strategic plan how we're going to implement these solutions. So the first thing is, we're not going to bring one ship in at a time. We're going to bring in 2 or 3 guys from one ship, 2 or 3 guys from another ship, 2 or 3 guys, deck, engine, deck officers, crew, so that all those cliques were gone. All there are now is a bunch of guys in a thing, in a hotel room. Other little things for group think as well. That's you got to break these guys up and separate them. So different ranks and all that good stuff. You're trying to break down the mob mentality. So now all it is an individual who you gotta sell, right? And you can sell an idea to an individual a lot better. So then I want to have participation. I want them to think that they are coming up with this idea themselves. It's not me telling them. Telling an Australian seafarer, I might as well be telling a bulldog, right? It's just not going to happen. So now I had to convince them that this is their idea, okay? So we want to run this over 3 or 4 days. If I run over 2 days, the first day they're really, really quiet because they get there. Second day, all they're doing is thinking about going home. So I need to keep them there for a while just to start to change their ideas and their mentality. So that's another obstacle I have to overcome. So we decided on 5 days. And we don't want to pressure these guys to come in on time on Monday. I don't know. These are the rules I'm set with. So we'll start at noontime on Monday, so everyone can kind of stroll in when they want to and stuff like that. Australians. Okay? Same one on Friday. I got to leave at 12 o'clock on Friday so they can get the flight home and they can be home for supper and all these. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe how much we had to bend over backwards. So all these little obstacles. So now I got them here. My buddy Steve is with me as well, and we're going down, and we're not British. Okay, which is, in this particular forum, is a plus for us. So we're the neutral party. We're like Switzerland. Okay, so then also we had to bring in the office managers, which they all knew quite well. But we said not just the managers. We need to talk to the ladies who booked their flights, the guys they have contact with, the supply department in Perth office. Brought all those guys in. So now it's everyone. All Australian. That's everyone. From the ground up, seafarers, everyone, to solve this problem and making us more safe. And that's the first stepping stones. Okay? Then I had to talk to the managers. Whatever solution they come up with, we have to have implemented before they walk out the door. So that was another thing too. Everything they had come up with a problem with, we had to have the answer why, to explain it to them, and anything they came up with as a positive that we could possibly do had to be implemented in 3 or 4 days, fleet-wide. There's only 6 vessels. There's not too much to do, okay, logistically wise. So once they saw that their suggestions were being taken on place, so we got the easiest people first, the people who, are not anti-union, but understand there's a practicality to it. So we brought in all the good people first for our first 1 or 2 courses. And then when we put them back at sea, they started to spread the word that this is the avenue. This is the medium that you want to have. You want to go to this thing because they fix problems. They are making improvements. They're investing money, right? Everything. And then, right? Then you get your early adopters coming. Those kind of people who take on the idea a little bit after the first people, and the late bloomers. All these guys, and eventually the hard knock union guys who didn't want to come were forced to come at the last stages. Okay? And so it's all about picking the people, even the people we picked to come on the courses, to then spread the word. That was a crucial part as well. And all of these things, I had to identify all the obstacles. We were a week of identifying the obstacles, and then come up with solutions on how to do that, solve it. So there you go. That's my little story.